So we've talked about empowerment, we've talked about disempowerment, we've opened up the conversation about the role of outsider. Let's go deeper. Again, what is the role? Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to start out with is you're an outsider, okay? Recognize that. Remember that. You don't have authority, you don't have stewardship, you should not try to be able to hold any of those two things. You're just an outsider. You're like Marco Polo who's passing by, who might be able to pick up something or might be able to leave something behind, okay? That's the first part that I want you to recognize. Roland Bunch gives us this great definition that development is a process whereby people learn to take charge of their own lives and solve their own problems. Okay, so now, a little bit of a question. Okay, I get it. My goal is to help them to take charge of their own lives and solve their own problems. I still don't know what my role is. What do I actually do? How do I engage there? And what what is the community really? What space is available for me to serve? I'll say that. Let's look at real quick what it's not, okay? First biggie, you're not their savior. Okay. How many of our organizations, the marketing messages of our organizations, the pictures, the general feel, the tone, there's these poor people and we're going to come in and save them. Okay? We're not that, okay? We may be able to incrementally support them in their process of societal development, but we're not their saviors. And we're going to strip that as any potential mindset that would massively reinforce a disempowering situation. We're not their leaders, okay? They have natural leaders. They have parents. They have local tribal leaders. They have government leaders that are in place that may or may not be doing a great job, but that's the institutionalized leadership, not you. They've got religious leaders that they have prescribed to support and following. They've got other community-based organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not their leader. And you're not their provider. You don't have a responsibility to give them things. You're not their mother, okay? Although you might feel maternalistic feelings while you're in that situation, that's not your role. Okay? Your role as a mother would be to provide for the needs of your children, to give them the food and the nutrients and nourishment they need to be alive. That's not the relationship that you have with a community because you're an outsider. And that's the role that you have, and respecting and honoring that role is going to set you up for success. And feeling and thinking that you have a responsibility or you want to be any of those things is going to set you up for failure. Okay, so back to the question. What is the role? I happen to have a lot of question marks because it's a really important question. And I want to create a little bit of anticipation. So I'll tell you, from the experience that I've had, and from working with mentors, often through the books they've written and the articles they've written, the conclusion that I and others have really drawn is that the role, the role that a community development worker has in this space is to serve as a guide. Think about what a guide does. As you're going along, a guide says, have you looked to your right? Have you looked to your left? Have you seen what's there? Let me show you a way that other people have gone before. If we hold ourselves in the space of what a guide does, then it's going to be hard for us to go too far astray. Have you thought of this? Did you know that this has been a proven failure? A lot of people have tried, doesn't work. You know what? This is a proven success. A lot of communities have been able to do this type of thing. It's worked out really, really well. In fact, I might be able to help get you connected to another community that's had the same sanitation challenge and did the same type of a thing. So as a guide, how can I interact with the community to support them in three main things, okay? These are the three things that we're going to live by as community development workers. As a guide, how can I support a community to, number one, identify their own problems. Number two, discover their own solutions. And number three, implement those solutions with their own available resources. And it just so happens, I'm going to say that again because it's so important. As a guide, How can I support a community in, number one, identifying their own problems, number two, discovering their own solutions, and number three, implementing those solutions with their own available resources? Okay. Those are the questions to ask. That will set you up for success. What we're doing is we're supporting a community to identify their own problems, discover their own solutions, implement those solutions with their own available resources. Okay. So, as an outsider and serving as a guide, there's just 5 kind of little like guide posts, guide signs that I want to remind you are going to set you up to be an effective guide in serving the needs of communities. And the first one is, remember that your job is to support them in learning and implementing processes. Okay, remember that very first quote from Jimmy Yin? It's a process, not a piecemeal. We're not trying to do something. We're trying to empower them so that they understand how they can do that thing perpetually on their own. So constantly thinking about how we can support a community and recognizing their own needs, experimenting, discovering, and then using their human energy differently. A quote from Jeff Massfield from Oxford University: a great deal of heartbreak, which in the past has too often turned over-optimistic idealists into later cynics, would be avoided if those who wish to help in agricultural development and poverty alleviation work in general could learn to be content to do so more slowly. Okay. To recognize that we're there to be able to help a process. Next is that we're going to focus our development energy onto the empowerment of people, not into the development of things and stuff. Right? What is human-centered development? It means that we're focused on getting the human beings with skills and capacities and mindsets that are going to set themselves up for success. Not what can we distribute, what can we build, how can we create a thing. So we're going to focus on the development of people, not things and stuff. Here's probably the longest quote of the whole workshop by Roland Bunch. I'm going to read it real quick. The rusting hulks of well-intentioned but long-forgotten giveaways are scattered all over the third world. I have personally seen tractors by the dozens, not to mention plows, cultivators, generators, threshers, pumps, sieves, lanterns, and grain mills that were never repaired after the first time they broke down. There are donated granaries that were never used, free high-yield seeds that were eaten, giveaway breeding animals that were sold or slaughtered for meat, the forest and fruit tree seedlings that died while still sitting in their little plastic bags. Tons upon tons of giveaway food have rotted, become infested with rats, or been fed to cattle and pigs or household pets. Some have been eaten, some have even been used to make commercial ice creams or whitewash houses. Villagers themselves generally recognize the uselessness of giving things away. Right? So great. That tractor, oh wow, you tripled their corn production that year because they had that tractor. I don't care about that year. What about the next year when they don't have access to the available parts to fix the tractor and to maintain it? I am going as far to say as, how dare you to assume that your short-term solution is going to be able to result in their long-term betterment, and not to really ask all the questions that are required to make sure if that statement's true or not. And I am just as much responsible as anyone else, because in the early days and even presently, the work that I've done hasn't been perfect. And I've caused problems in the work that I've done. And I'll totally own that. And I'll say that, how dare me, to myself. And that resulted in a learning and an aggressive desire to share that information with you and with people all over the world. Okay, so we're developing humans. The third thing, we're connecting to people. Okay? It's okay. This doesn't have to be a fully sterile professional thing. We're going to listen. We're going to love. We're going to have their best interests in mind. And we're going to utilize all the principles that we need to utilize in an effective human relationship in the relationships that we have with people on the ground. We're going to connect to people. A couple more points. Living close to people is so important. You know, we stay in the hotel and then we take a truck into the community during the daytime. Like it's hard to really develop good relationships that way. We're establishing friendships based upon mutual trust and candid two-way communication. Okay, super important. And we're understanding and appreciating their traditional knowledge and their cultural strengths. So again, just every single thing that you know works effectively in developing strong relationships needs to be brought into the equation to really focus on people, okay, and help them to feel that love and connection. You're going to serve as a catalyst. You guys understand this. As you better understand the seed scale model, you'll recognize exactly how this all fits in, but see yourself as someone that's there to be able to support and maybe even expedite social progress and transformation, but not someone that's there to be able to do it for somebody. Okay. And lastly, we're going to implement the empowerment equation. Okay, this is something we haven't talked about yet, but it's simple. And it's recognizing that human energy as potential. Okay? Adding to that potential vision, tools, and connectivity. Vision, supporting them in seeing a better and brighter future. Tools, information, proven methods, sometimes skills building, skills training, the things that they're going to need to do the work. And connectivity, increasing the quality and the quantity of the connections they have with themselves and other people in order to get the jobs done. And potential plus vision, tools, and connectivity is really a powerful formula that helps to result in empowerment. And one of the things that's really exciting to take this to the next level is locus of control. Where does this play into this? Well, locus of control actually refers to the degree to which an individual is able to implement this empowerment equation for themselves. So we step into a community, we help to share with them the vision, the tools, and the connections to become empowered. Well, as a person develops a stronger and stronger internal locus of control, what starts to happen is they see their own potential. They're able to see a vision and even share that vision with other people. They now become the birthplace of that vision. They're able to go out proactively, recognize their capacity gaps, and learn the information or develop the skills that are going to be needed. They can reach out and make the connections, and they can ultimately empower themselves. And so as we support people through going this process, what we're really doing is supporting people to be able to own this process. And that's when we see the locus of control shift and become stronger and stronger and stronger and more internal. Okay. The empowerment equation. All right. So we focused on process, focusing on development of humans, people, catalysts, and equations. And these are some signposts that I want you guys to take into consideration to kind of check up against to make sure that you're doing effective work as a guide. Okay. So this concludes the second part of this role of the outsiders.